the ancient Greeks had an interesting word for medicine. It was pharmakon. But you know what else the word pharmakon meant? Poison, right? So you really want to be careful when you look in your medicine cabinet and see the word pharmakon. But I share this because it illustrates an important point, and that is the balance between the sacrifice that you make from today you for tomorrow you. And clearly the data shows us that most Americans struggle with making that sacrifice, and they don't set aside enough for tomorrow them. But there's also a group of us that sacrifice too much from today us in order to prepare for tomorrow us. And so today's video is talking about that balance and trying to get that balance right. And it's something that I think not enough financial advisors talk about. So I want to talk about that today. And if you look at young people, right? Young people are wealthy in many areas. They're wealthy in their health. They're wealthy in their energy and passion, and probably their friends. Most are wealthy in optimism. Of course, they're not wealthy. Most are not wealthy in dollars, right? But then as we start to age and we get jobs and we start, we have a mortgage and we have college savings and retirement and all these other things that we have to plan for. And it's easy for that balance to go the other way, right? As we get older, we have less energy, we have less passion, unfortunately, less curiosity. Many of us have fewer friends now than we did in high school or in college. And certainly, most of us have less health now, and all of us have less time now than somebody that's 21 years old, right? And so young people, and so it's like one extreme or the other. Young people have all this optimism and enthusiasm and excitement for tomorrow. And then as we age and we make these sacrifices, we lose some of that passion. And we get so used to putting off for tomorrow what we could enjoy today, that we lose out. And I share that, likely saving 10% should be the minimum that Americans strive for. And unfortunately, the data and the numbers, when you crunch them, really shows 15 to 25% is what we should be shooting for. But that's something that's easy to quantify. Less easy to quantify is, what should we be shooting for from an enjoyment of life and adventures and seizing the day? Should that be 15 or 20% of our sacrifices that we're going to say, I kind of feel like I should save this $7,000, this $10,000, and not go to Europe with my family, not go to Europe or Africa, go on a safari in Africa, or spend some time in South America or Southeast Asia, or go to Australia, or whatever the adventure is, right? Take a sabbatical, a 3-month sabbatical, maybe without pay at work, or take a huge pay cut, or give up a promotion in order to balance life with your money, right? And that's much harder to quantify, but it's every bit as important. In fact, I put my cards on the table. I think it's more important. I would not want to be 50 years old and not have a dime saved for retirement. Conversely, I also would not want to be 50 years old and not have built the relationship with my kids that I wanted to, and not have had some adventures. And what that requires is some trade-offs and some sacrifices, and maybe passing up a promotion. I use the term that I'm optimizing on life as opposed to optimizing on my bank account. And I think that's really an important balance for all of us to get right. And admittedly, it's hard to get right. Again, because one is so easy to measure and the other one's impossible to measure. So how do you balance those two and make that decision when one is so easy to measure and the other is not? And I would argue that one of the things that you gain as you get older is, yes, you're gaining balances in your savings account, but you're also gaining experience and you're also gaining wisdom. And part of wisdom's job is to kind of guide you and to make these trade-offs. How much is enough? Is it better to have a richer bank account, or a richer life? And I think you're better off with both. And that's the challenge, right? Is how do you get both? And I think you just have to kind of meander. There's times in your life that you're going to be heads down and you're going to be making sacrifices. And there's also times in your life where, crunch mode is over and you can kind of focus more on the family. And that's, as a student, now I've always been a student at heart. Regular viewers of my channel know this. And as a student, the nice thing is there's these seasons of being a student, right? You work really hard in the fall semester, then you get 2 to 4 weeks off in the winter where you can relax, recuperate, spend time with your family, and then you work really hard again till May, early June, and then you get a time to recuperate again. But in the work world, we don't get those seasons. So I encourage you to work to find those seasons, to recognize those seasons in your life. And if they don't happen naturally, to do what you can to make them happen, right? You don't want to be 65 years old and say, boy, I've got this great financial security blanket and you've been a great provider and a great saver, but your relationships are not in balance. They're not where you want them to be. Your health is not where you want it to be. You don't have passions. You don't have an identity outside of work. I think that's a very dangerous place to be as well. So I urge you to think about doing both. And there's a great book that I want you to read, and it's called Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. And as a financial advisor myself for over 20 years, I really wanted to write a book like this. In fact, I don't know if I was ever going to publish it, but I was going to write a book like this to help my kids, both of my daughters, think about making that trade-off. And you know what? Bill did such a great job with that book that I'm not going to, and this is not sponsored by that book, I'm not going to write that book now because it's already been written better than I could write it. So again, it's not just work and money. It's also doing things that are fun, that you enjoy doing. It's also, family. Your family spells love. It's a 4-letter word, right? Love, and it's spelled T-I-M-E, time. And your family spells love by how much time you get to spend with them. And take the time to take care of your health, and take the time to kindle and pursue passions, to keep those alive in your life. And you want to become the you that you were always meant to be. And the financial side of you is a part of it, but it's not all of it. And if you enjoyed today's video, I know you're going to enjoy this video up here that talks about the average income for retirees in America, and this video down here that talks about 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can.